What up, though? Man, welcome to Thrive, where we are all about helping urban leaders to thrive and to flourish in the areas of leadership, discipleship, and technology. Man, I am excited today. I got a special guest with me, Kurt Seen Herbert. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I sound like I'm in trouble.
Oh yeah, we about to get some waters up in here. But man, yeah, I had the privilege of serving as the founder and church planter of a church called the Edge Urban Church, and did that for a minute, and I just felt the call to go opposite direction. Well, same direction, but just outside of the edge. You know what I mean? Still relevantly reaching the hood. You know what I'm saying? Still doing that, but God raised up Kurt to step in as the lead pastor, who's been pastoring there now for how long? Have you?
2 years.
Yeah, 2 years.
Yep, 2 years this month.
2 years this month. Man, tell the people, like, how in the world did you land at the edge? Where you from? Where you be? And then how did you get there? Because it is a journey, y'all. So y'all sit back,
it's
prepare, get some popcorn or something.
So, born in St. Kitts in the Caribbean, grew up in Jamaica for 10 years, moved back to St. Kitts. The long and short of it is I wanted to be a lawyer, was working at a bank, saving money for that. And then God called me to full-time ministry. And I applied to one school thinking, you know what, I don't want to do this, but I'm going to apply to one school somewhere far like Canada. And it's not going to work. But what I realized is Kingswood University accepts anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And so went there, met my wife. She was my wife at the time, obviously, but I met her, transitioned to the U.S., because we felt called to church planting, and landed in Detroit. While we're in Detroit helping out a church plant there, heard of the Edge, so we would travel up to the Edge once a month.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe about 3 or 4 times doing that. Pete was like, listen, we got to have dinner. And so we sat down with him, his wife LaDon, and they invited us out to their residency.
Yeah, that was, we literally live out, bring a man, sit them down, raise them up, send them out. So it's just like, okay, they were here like 2 times. I knew Tisa, then got to know you. So I'm like, okay, well, we got to talk. And like, what are y'all thinking? What are y'all doing? So that is it y'all sitting down up in here? So what we're gonna do next? Which was pretty dope. Which went, ended up being an 8-year, great time of ministry. And for me, it was dope because it was, a time of which we'll get into later, but it was just a time of different for me, where I'm trying to figure out, well, what's what.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? How am I going to move forward in ministry? So I was able to slowly, but kind of quickly, be able to hand more things over to you to take and run with it, which was pretty dope. Man, I got you fill in the blank, So, yeah, fill in the blank. Transition feels like blah.
Gotta do a metaphor, man. Feels like.
Oh yeah, he's a spoken word. You know what I'm saying? Beast.
Feels like you're in the front of a vehicle, and he's driving the vehicle, but you've seen all the things he does. You've seen how he moves the wheel, the buttons he's pressing, and maybe I'm messing with the radio a little bit, but that's about it. But I'm seeing where the vehicle is going and all of that, and then it kind of feels like you just slid over and said, all right, you take the wheel. And I'm like, what? So all of the emotions of holding the wheel for the first time, being the one to push the controls, press the gas, press the brakes.
That's a good analogy.
Steer the wheel all at the same time. So it's something I watch up close, but
yeah,
feels different when you're the one operating the controls there.
That's a good point. I think we handle ministry different. Where, in title, it wasn't co-pastoring per se, but in function, I think it was, where it was a situation where it was just like I was dependent on you to carry ministry in the areas where you were strong, so that I can carry ministry in the areas where I was strong. So there wasn't a lot of overlap, you know what I'm saying? So I think the transition, though you say it was a couple little things, but it's just like, no, it was those big things that I couldn't, I shouldn't be touching. You know what I mean? Like, there was a point.
But I guess I'm saying that because it was easy for me, so I didn't feel like they felt like small.
Oh, I got it. Yeah.
Yeah, but then having to learn the
Yeah.
other side of
Yeah.
it, right? It's like, whoa, this is big thing.
Yeah. Oh, right. Oh, true
Yeah.
that. So yeah, I think we the way that we set it up was one, in the beginning. It was always, I said I was never going to do ministry by myself. I just think that's it's the lamest thing ever, to have to do ministry and you're running by yourself, running. But then two, it's like, well, then I would have to figure out a way to move out the way, and I'm not good at that. And so, I always say that I'm not the best at most things, but I still consume the air. You feel me? I walk in the room, I'm sucking out all the air. You know what I'm saying? Because I want all of the air. Yeah. I want to do it all. But then that means I can't be in the room. That's simple. For me, that's my system. It's saying that I have to remove myself out of the scenario, or say, you're 100% responsible for it. I'll check in, and if you need me, I'm there. And then otherwise, because, does that feel abandonment sometimes, where it's like, how I would like.
Well, no, because I knew the pattern, because we've known each other for years.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's always like heavy relationship, heavy FaceTime early, and then you'd step back some, and then check in, and then you're like, hands off, like, do your thing.
Yeah.
Once that's set in motion. So this didn't feel weird, because even before the official transition date, we'd been doing the FaceTime heavy.
That's true. Yeah.
So I'm like, no, this is how anything, like from preaching to anything, that's how we did it.
Yeah. Always joking, but seriously, like I was, it was to a point where it's just like, okay, well, if you and I both hear from the same God, we Holy Spirit moves in us the same, you know what I'm saying, and we have both surrendered to Jesus, then why is it that I'm the only one that can hear what the Lord is saying to the church? it's like,
yeah.
I think it's a bit prideful, like, no, there's a collective, and you know how we did it for, when we were at was fully going, it was like, we would have a team of us sitting down. It wasn't just like, it was a team, like, so what are we going to talk about? Like, what is this and that? But I think
collective, like, discerning,
and that's what it was like, where it was just like, well, Kurt, I essentially would just say, hey, what are we talking about for this next season? He'll plan it all out, because that's what you are good at. It's saying, well, this is what I'm feeling, and you got metaphors, you got bars, you're all the stuff, and God knows the scripture. So it's just like, oh, man, if he feels this is where we're going, and I have my 3 cents, and then we keep it moving. But I just think that made my life a lot easier, because I didn't feel like pressured to be in a space that I absolutely hated.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I hated that part of being a pastor,
So I have a question for you. So I think years later, I realized that you knew for a while, like 6 years almost, that God was kind of shifting you, transitioning you, but you still stayed. So what were some of those pressure points? Like, why was it hard to let go?
Yep.
I remember even hearing you publicly say, like, this was disobedience. Like, why do you term it like that?
Yeah. I feel like, the way I described, I don't know if I've ever told you the way I described. Well, I'll get to that in a minute. But I'll say, like, I don't remember the date or nothing like that. I'm not that kind of person. I just don't remember the date. I do remember a feeling, a season of feeling of like, things were going great. Things were good. It's just like, so what's next? And I felt like I didn't know. I didn't have an answer to that. So I called Donnie.
Okay.
Called Donnie. He said, "Oh, okay. It sounds like me, like you're done." You know, it's a Donnie statement, right? It's like it sounds like to me like you're done. So what is the Lord telling you to do? And I said, I'm not sure. You know what I mean? And so, and I think I was sure. I don't think I liked the Lord's answer.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like you're done. You need to figure out what that. You need to start transitioning. And and so, I think my disobedience kicked in when I started to think about the people. When I started thinking about the church, when I started thinking about the finances, when I started thinking about the building, I started thinking about these things that I ultimately have no control over anyway. So I think I started to move into disobedience because I said, well, man, I got to fix this first. Then I'll allow God to do his thing.
Okay. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I liken it to I keep it a buck. It was just like, I can't, I remember when we had the conversation about the transition. No one asked you about that, but for me, it was just like I felt like Saul in the situation, right? So disobedience is disobedience. I don't care how you cut it. To me, it's just,
Saul is that's a weighty comparison.
And that's where I've been. I don't think I've ever said that to you, but that's what I've always explained it. Like I felt like I was in disobedience, and it is either you're obedient or you're not. And I felt like I was in disobedience, and then there was you that was called to be in a place, right? And you were called to be in a place where David was called to be in a place. And I'll never forget when Dawn asked you all about it. Do you remember Tisa's first response when we put her to the office?
I'm trying to remember.
It wasn't any words. She laughed.
Okay.
She said, "Yeah, he knew this."
Yeah.
And that to me was like,
yeah.
Oh, so I'm sitting in the place in the way of your way where it's something that you should be doing because of my disobedience, and I'm walking around for lack of terms. And I won't say it because then they'll be posting me all over the place. But you get what I'm saying? Like I feel like I was in the wrong place. I was in the wrong seat. I was riding out the seat, and that was just not cool. How was it for you? Like when I first, do you remember that day when we had the conversation?
I remember that conversation. Unlike PE, I remember dates and seasons and stuff. I remember, it was a fall day. It was after service. And I remember I was standing. I think you were sitting. I was standing. And when you said it, Pete, like I almost fell. Like it was that, like, whoa, this is big.
Cause I'd never.
Yeah, you never gave any indication that.
No, we would talk like almost every day, or multiple times. Text, call text or call every day, but it's like we talk all the time. Yeah. We're just in the same space. We're doing like this, so yeah.
So Tisa's right in that. Yes, I felt, man, like I could feel something coming, but you never said anything. So for you to verbally say that, LaDon's there, she's nodding her head, like just affirming the whole thing. Tisa's like, yeah, we've been knowing this, and I'm like, but this is big, this is huge.
But that's the way you cut, though. You're always trying to figure out. You're counting the cost. You got your big pieces of paper with little writing on it. Y'all have no idea.
Oh my goodness.
He got like stacks of papers and stuff, and it's like it'll be this big old piece of paper, but it'll be a whole book on one page. They're like little letters like this small. It's just like, so he's always thinking and writing stuff. But here, we were at a church service, so I had already known that that I was supposed to be out of the way. But we were at a church service, and the story. In the urinal, handling my business, and dudes don't talk when we at the urinal. And this cat come walking in, want to hold a conversation, and we're like, "Hey, Troy, what's up?" I'm like, "What's up?" And he's like, "Yeah, he said, man, I just transitioned to what? Like, man, I left being a pastor to go and do a church planting, and the Lord told me to do that, and it's going really good. All right, man, I'll talk to you later."
Wow.
I was at Nate Johnson's church
Wow.
there to pray
Yeah.
with him and pray for
Yeah.
him. 30 minutes away from the edge. That was Sunday morning. It was the anniversary. It was something. It was the anniversary, and I wasn't there.
Yo.
You get what I'm saying? That's what
your heart was kind of.
I'm already
moving.
like, you know what I mean? And then he says this to me, and I go to talk to Dawn. Now she at this point she was like, I don't want to. She basically like either put up or shut up. You know what I mean? She's not even want to have a conversation no more about. Oh, I think I'm done. I'm da 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 da. I've been talking about it for years, and get in the car, and I'm like, man, I'm gonna have to say something to her. We literally get in the car because this guy left. I thought he was an angel. I thought like the Lord sent me an angel because I couldn't find him anywhere in the service. And so I bumped into him later. His name is Justin. Okay. You know what I mean? Justin, yeah. Which, but
Justin the angel.
Justin the angel. So he was not an angel. But we in the car. He's like, yo, I mean, we're sitting here and she's like, and I was like, I'm gonna have to say something to her. I said, all right. I said, when do you think I'm done? Now, you said this was the fall, right?
Yeah.
She told me, she was like, January. It wasn't like no big smoke in the air and the Lord said January 1. No, she was like, January. I was like, we're done. Punched it. Went straight from there. And I told her what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead. You go get Tisha and Kurt. Tell them to come on back here because you was up preaching. Right by the time you got done, we were in that room waiting on you all to talk to you about it. So that was the just to bring everybody else into what was going on, that was the feeling and the vibe where it's just like, you know, we have to say the truth, and I had to get it out of me. And I think that's a major part of transition. Is typically we don't want to get it out. So verbalize it. So as you know, this first segment is about discipleship, man. And what do you feel like you learned? What do you feel like you learned as a disciple of the Lord? What did you learn in that moment right there? Like between that time and the time we sat down and we met, because I'm gonna get to that later, about this is what we're gonna do moving forward. What did you learn in that?
I think a huge piece of it was and I mean, you've always led like this, but the humility to say, man, I've been in disobedience. Like, what? Like, people, you don't hear people saying that, you know? So being upfront about that, that's always been a hallmark of your leadership. But in that moment, it was like the weight of you saying that, the weight of this is the ministry that you birthed, that you carried. And I've seen you through the journey of the ups and downs of that, like just how emotionally invested, spiritually invested you are in it. And then to say, no, I think it's time to hand that over. What I felt in that moment was like I was being entrusted with something precious.
Jeez.
And so there were a lot of emotions for me during that moment. Because it wasn't just a role.
Put some words to the emotions. What were they?
Like emotions, like let's put it this way: responsibility. Like I think why I describe it as like my knees almost buckle is like I literally felt like there was a weight of responsibility
being transferred
over. It'd be like if you're carrying like a weight.
Yeah.
And you move over and you say,
That's
you
weird.
grab the other end of this thing now.
That is so weird because we just said it earlier about me not being there. I didn't feel any of that weight. I felt like the weight was, I didn't have no weight.
It
was just, this is a conversation that's going to be had. And I don't know if you remember, I said, hey, I don't know if you feel the Lord's telling you, but I'm done. I was like, I'm done. I'm going to be going here, but it's like if the Lord's telling you to do that, then but yeah, that's weird.
Yeah, when you said that, I felt something shift over.
Yeah.
And I mean, we've been doing ministry together for years.
Yeah.
I'm like your number 2 guy. Like that hadn't changed, but I felt something different in that moment.
Yeah. I think it was different. And I liken it to transition, like when you're transitioning. Now we're moving from discipleship as a disciple, which we both are, like just disciples of the Lord, like moving into this realm of leadership and what that looks like. I feel like as a leader, when you birth something, and then you got children, you got plural now, you know what I'm saying, which is so strange, but it's nothing like, so Tank, who's sitting over there, is a person that I literally have trained to physically handle his business, like putting the ones and twos together. I discipled him before he even knew Aaron, who Aaron was, before they even knew they liked each other. So we had already established a father-son bond relationship prior to any of that happening. And I would say, and I don't say this about many people in both regards, but mind, body, and spirit, I trust him with my life. I don't do that too often. And so it's like I literally physically, mentally, spiritually, I trust him with my life. So therefore, it was easier for me to trust him with my daughter. I say all of that, and I say, ain't nothing like watching this cat walk down the aisle with my daughter.
I was there, by the way. I did their wedding.
I was
yeah, that
I
was,
was all shaky. You know what I'm saying? It was shaky. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't know if I want to punch him in his head, you know what I'm saying, back of his neck, or hug him, or kick him in his throat. I didn't know what I wanted to do. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to do it all, and I felt like it was like a ripping of my soul, because I know that she has to release me, and I will no longer, and he will tell you to date, I barely talk to her about their issues. I talk to him about the issues. It's because it's his bride, not my daughter, in a sense. Well, that's the only way I can explain what it felt like to release ministry. A person I literally, physically, mind, body, and spirit, you fit in those few people that I give my life to. I trust my whole existence. I fall. I have no doubt you're going to catch me. So then to say, but that's still my baby.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? To do it's like, I didn't know if I wanted to kick you, punch you. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying? Did you feel any of that tension of like, did you feel any of that or no?
I think so man, like that weight. I will say this, because I remember you said it that first day when you told us, hey, transitioning end of the year. I started to feel that weight shift, and you said in that very conversation, hey, what's coming is ministry is going to feel heavier because you have to make decisions now about the future of the church and stuff like that. This was after we had said yeah. And like over the months that followed, like I started to feel that even more. Like I joke now, I got my first gray hair in. My first gray hair, man. Like about 3 months in, I'm looking in the mirror.
This right here is called Tank.
See?
No, but this is called Tank right here. This is Tank. This is Stephen Malcolm right here.
So like, it begins. But yeah, I think it's the weight of responsibility, the way of just carrying a ministry spiritually. Yeah. Like that's something that I just didn't know it was a thing. Yeah. I didn't know it was a thing before. And then the pressure of having to give answers, or at least be asked questions. Yeah. You have no answers for.
Yeah, right. That's the truth.
Yeah. So like all of that shifted.
So challenges, what were the challenges with the what went well, what didn't go so well with the transition? From not with the people, with us. How did you feel went well, and what didn't go well in that? What do you feel?
I think now 2 years in, I can actually look back at it better. In the time, everything feels new, so you don't know what you know. You don't know what you don't know.
Facts.
So I think you did a great job, PE, of helping me feel confident going in. And that's coming from years of, like, when I first met PE, my confidence in my ability to, my anointing, my calling, my ability to minister in this context coming out of the Caribbean was low, real low.
Yeah, I know.
And just your leadership style, your encouragement helped me just kind of find myself, be myself, be open about who I am. So that's always been a hallmark of our relationship. But I stepped into the role feeling, man, PE's got me. Like, there's not a problem that I can face that I don't have backup, that I don't have a community I could lean on.
Yeah.
And that was something that you did. I remember you running point, even outside of the edge, running point to say, hey, this is what this transition is coming. This transition is coming. Support my guy.
Yeah.
So that was
a nice
huge.
way to put it.
Yeah. He said that's a nice way to put it. But yeah, so it's just running interference that way. So that was really good. And then the conversations you and LaDon had with both Tisa and I about what it would mean to be the pastors now, what it means to be like a pastor's wife, those conversations with Tisa, what does that feel like? And Tisa's a pastor in her own right.
Right.
But yeah, there's just certain nuances that shift.
Yeah.
Just because of the role, how people would see you.
Yeah.
Versus before. How they equate you and the church as one thing. That's not something we had to deal with before.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Yeah.
So yeah, so you guys did a great job of preparing us that way. I think a challenge is not recognizing, because I was number 2 for years. There were times people were looking to me for a response, and I would give the response like a number 2 person.
What do you mean?
So what I mean is, when people looked at you and what you were saying, they knew that was where the buck stopped.
Got it.
Right? People were expecting that from me, and I mentally hadn't made that shift. So I wouldn't say it with the assertiveness that it needed to be said.
Got it.
Or as quickly as I needed to say it.
Put that into a lesson to a leader watching. You would tell them what from a lesson.
So yeah, so if you're in that place, I'm saying that people need direct instructions. People need direct instructions. They need to know exactly what your vision is, what you want to see accomplished. Before what I would have to do is trying to discern what PE's vision is, and then I'm articulating it and I'm supporting his vision. But people need to know that this is not Kurt's vision. This is what PE wants.
Okay, that's fair.
So now I had to learn.
Fair.
No, say this is what it is.
Yeah.
Don't talk about myself in third person.
That's transition.
I'm the person.
You have to transition into that.
Yes.
Okay, title, mantle, prayer time. Everybody got behind you. We did physically. We could sit and who's with you. Everybody who's with you. Da 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 da. That doesn't mean your psyche and your mode of operation, you know what I'm saying, as a number 2, like that's going to shift overnight.
Yeah.
The way people expect it.
Yeah.
You know, too. And so I wonder, I wonder if that's, I would say challenges for me was, the exciting thing is that I knew you had it. I knew that you and Tisa together would doubly have it, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? It's like, oh no, this is, and to watch you function, I watched your growth, your more, and not even your growth, more your confidence. You had everything you needed when you got to the edge. You didn't need anything else. It was more about, do you believe? Do you see what I see? Like I'm like, is he like saying? Maybe he's not seeing. And I remember something, and I'm so happy to see you walking fullness of who you are as a Caribbean black man. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm,
Like,
mhm.
because I remember having a conversation. I'm like, man, people are intrigued by who you are, your whole of all of who you are. And I feel like maybe it was in my mind, but like, man, I don't feel enough patois. You know what I mean? I need to feel that in the sermon. If they ain't coming out, I don't want to hear it. You know what I'm saying? But it's like, but then you
We
start
did have that conversation.
You know, we had a
Yeah.
conversation, but it's
Yeah.
like, but it's, I feel like you start walking in who you are and confidence in that. That to me was just like, that's all it takes in the hip hop urban culture. It's like, as long as a person being 100% authentic themselves, as you know, it's like, it doesn't matter. That's why Denny Johnson, probably the most effective person. Denny is a 70-year-old white man. You know what I'm saying? The most effective person's ever hit the edge because he's never changing who he is.
Yep.
And that you come with that.
Yep.
I would say a challenge would be, you know, I did not know. It's the edge, man. Like, yo, man, we do things different. No, we a church. we have the same things. It ain't that different.
Same
you know what I'm saying?
dynamics. A church is a church.
Well, of course, I thought that. I'm like, well, you know, we're the edge, man. You know, hey, we'll be back next week. And I got up and I told everybody that. I'm like, yeah, we ain't going nowhere. We'll be back. You know, that's when you have old people issues. But you know, with the edge, man, like, you know, I end up saying like, yo, we're gonna be back. We're gonna make this happen, and we're gonna be here. And then I got into it, and it's just like it is still like I can't even explain the challenge of like, oh, I have to walk in here and not be in charge, right? That sounds bad, but I don't care what people think. It's the real thing.
Real. It's real.
And
It's
I
real.
know at the end of the day, my children, I know them. I know Kurt and Tisa. I know them. And what happens is my challenge was like, or maybe I don't. Maybe I'm like, maybe I was assuming like if I step in there too early, then they're going to do what they're going to do. And they're going to give me respect in all ways, shape, or form, which means I'm going to suck the air. I'm going to suck the air. I thought I said earlier, I'm going to suck the air. I mean, I'm going to come in, I'm going to start fixing stuff. I'm going to So then I got conflicted. Like, what do I do? Then I got emotional about it. Then coming to the church and that transfer happened. So you feel that transfer, and it's like you feel the transfer of like, man, the weight, the transfer of feeling that you don't have the weight anymore.
What do you do? What do you do with that? Like, you feel like exposed, like I have nothing to do? Or
When you walk into a building and you feel like the people know that you're not their pastor anymore. I always say this. I always say that, and pastors don't want to talk about it, but I say it, that pastors almost have to be codependent on the sheep. What's our purpose for existence? You get up, you take care of the sheep. That's all you do. You got to know their very intricate details. You got to know when that one squeals, and you got to know it's that one. And then also, and vice versa, they got to know it's your voice, almost all the other shepherd and other sheep, and all around this field. So it's like you got to be intimately, fully engaged, fully in there with them to have that snatched away. Immediately, gone. You start doing like this, like, do I have purpose? Do I have reason to be here? Do they like me? You start feeling that stuff. And you know I went through some major emotional tearing and ripping and that. So it's just like, well, I guess they don't want me here, so I'm not going to be here. I guess I'm not wanted or this and that. But I think the challenge in that is that then I think I end up separating completely from the day to day. Now I want to leave you with a couple of resources. We're all about resourcing here, and at the end of the day, we have a Thrive book. Thankfully, Kurt was willing to forward the book, and it's short read, but it's literally like this. It's like having conversation with myself and even the wisdom that I've gleaned from others, just all poured into these few pages, and 50 lessons for you to go in to dive in to have a dialogue with because get a place for you to learn inside of there. But man, just pick up the book, Amazon. The link is inside of the bio. And then also we have an opportunity to be a part of our Unstuck Bootcamp. You know what I mean? Like I can't explain to you. You just got to be there. It's on February 22nd. But at the end of the day, we're helping people to get unstuck. This particular boot camp is all about creating an action plan. So whether you're transitioning into a new spot, out of a new spot, or you're transitioning like, yo, I want to start this new thing. I want to start a new business. I want to start a new ministry. We're saying if you're all about that and you really want to get it done, we have a team of people that know how to help you, that have been trained on how to help you to get unstuck. So join us February 22nd. Be willing to take a day, and I'll tell you to get some sleep the night before, and then click the link inside the bio. Kurt is 73. You call him Uncle Kurt, okay?
73. I think like a 73-year-old.
Do you still have
I'm
a
gonna
flip phone?
I'm gonna take that in the best way possible. That's a compliment.
It is.
Yeah, that's a compliment.
He is a senior man, and I've always treated him like he's an old man. And in technology, he does technology, but he does it at his own pace, at his own time, which is, I think, is great. Kurt, seeing, you know what I'm saying? And so, how was you diving into, we did a deep dive into technology you play with, but how was that for you? We were in Chat GPT. We're playing with it in our boot camp. For you?
I think for me it was just seeing all the useful, like just day-to-day tasks, being able to optimize that, speed it up, using AI, using Chat GPT. Like, it was kind of mind-blowing just how many different applications that was. And so while the context was really about writing books, I'm like, oh, there's so many, using sermons, meeting planning, like there's so many different things that this could help with. So I've actually been implementing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for other things too.
Absolutely. And I see it being useful. I think it's useful here as well. We went through a process, so after you said yes to the transition, we went through, we went immediately to the lab. We're in the basement, in that room, the first room off to the right, and we sat down and I asked some very clear questions. What is the church that God has called you to? Forget, this is not my church no more. So what is it that we know, we got it deep down in our soul, and by God's grace, there's thousands of people who knows our mantra, who knows the edge, who knows what we rock, what we're about, which is amazing. But that was the moment of that mission could change right there in that one conversation. You remember that when we were talking?
Yeah, I remember, and he kept pressing me like, what is it? I'm like, it's not very different. Changing the word in some, but it's not very different. But just kind of drilling down on what those are: mission, vision, values. That's conversations we've had for years. Yeah. So it wasn't like a new conversation. No. But in that moment, I really could have said ABC, and you'd have been like, "Well, I guess that's where we going."
Yeah. And for me, it's always like, how do you can't prevent mission drift. But you can put an anchor down, and anchor down is not going to stop just a strong water pushing. But you're not going to move as fast. You're not going to go way over here. You can do like this, and then give me time to get it back, get it right. But starting with the mission says that then we can develop strategy moving there. So if that's the mission, then the vision is this, and then the values are these, and those things end up playing themselves out. If 2.5 years ago, 3 years, how long has it been? No.
That conversation was 2.5 years.
2.5 years ago, if I was using, the tool like ChatGPT, then that like I use it now, I would like to lay out what I would have done during our planning process. So we went through a planning, like what does this 3 months look like?
Yeah.
And there was there was internal and external things that needed to happen, and I kind of wrote it down here because there's no way I would have remembered it all. But I want to give I want to teach a tech how to properly use, technology, ChatGPT, in light of developing any plan, but in this case, the transition plan. I
Yeah.
think level one of using ChatGPT is people typically I want to do things faster, and then I want to do it. It's one way. It's not even one way communication because it's not communication. It's just one way. I'm gonna tell you what I want to do. Give commands. Where that's not the best way to engage in with ChatGPT. Even as a former engineer, IT dude, that's how I give you a command, I give you a script, you execute. That's it's your dumb node computer. Do what I tell you to do. That's just not the way it works. The best way to start is a conversation to converse with the technology. So in this case, we're gonna take the transition. If we're gonna sit down, we're sitting down in the basement. We're gonna dive into this. We're gonna dive into you said what the mission is.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
I would gather all that information, and I would take that. In our case, we would record it, and but we would take the mission, vision, values, name of the church, and we'll put that into ChatGPT. And I would say, hey, this is the scenario. Tell it, hey, I've been a pastor for this amount of time. My name's Troy, and this is Kurt. We're transitioning. I would give it context and say, this is what it is. Then I would say, this is what we know. The mission, vision, value. This is what it is. And I would put a date, time stamp on it. And I say, this is the date today. We're going 3 months from now, and say, this is where we are. And I would ask the question and say, if you were making this transition as an expert and making transitions for pastors, organizational shift and transfer under our circumstances, what advice would you give me? That changes everything. Because now what we're doing is we're inviting technology that has an opportunity to scrape the internet and scrape all of its training data to find out, to say, well, actually, thank you for asking. And then it offers this information. I typically don't use that first line of information. I just want to get its thinking, its like reasoning, framework, right?
Yeah.
Into what we're talking about. Then my next question would be, now based on what you know about our situation, give me give me a 90-day plan based on this information, based on what we use the most, mission, objective, strategy, tactics, so that we stay aligned with it, and give me a 90-day plan. So it'll spit out, here's the plan. But here's another thing. I was like, and I would celebrate, say, man, great job. I wouldn't even read it. I say, great job on that. I think you can do better. I want you to go back and think about it again based on everything you know about us. What are you missing? And then I'll say something like, don't respond until you tell me what do you feel like you're missing in your plan. And then it'll go back, it'll shoot it back to me. This is critical. We're transferring the church over.
Yeah.
It's worth a few minutes to ask these questions, to go back and forth versus trying to do the first level of engaging. And that is just, hey, give me a 90-day plan on the situation. Now it's spitting that back out. And then the last thing I would do and then I would go back and I'll ask it, give me this plan. And then, as you know, we believe in human in the loop. And so what we would do is we're ping-ponging it. And then what I would do is I would take the information, and then I would actually, I'll take the information and I would edit it and make sure in this case, you would edit it to make sure this is what you want. And then the last step, then I would ask you one other thing. I would say, now give me the communication strategy for that plan. I need to speak to my leadership. I need to speak to the congregation. I need to speak to the community.
Yeah.
And that's what we spoke about that. And we did those videos, blah, 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 blah. And we did those things. But that, if I had technology, that's how we would have did it. We wouldn't have had the 5 meetings. Kurt, it would have been one, and we would spend a lot more time praying.
Yeah.
By the way, that is the way technology works. We were just doing the thing that only humans can do. And our technology take care of that. We've been spending a lot more time praying and crying and praying versus, okay, God, we're looking at another whiteboard. For what?
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? So what are your thoughts? Do you see that? We did all, I think we did all of that.
Yeah, we did do all of that. I just see how a system like that would just speed it up, streamline it. But also when you're kind of doing it off the dome, like, am I missing anything?
Yeah.
you know me, like I'm looking for books. I'm
Yeah,
like looking at books,
yeah,
and he's
absolutely.
like, "Oh my gosh," because I
Yeah.
got a library. And he's like, if there was a way to kind of like research all of that, that's really what you're doing with using ChatGPT's research and pulling from all these different sources into one coherent plan.
Yeah, that's what you would do anyway.
That would just like,
you would definitely pull like what are best practices and that kind of thing. It just speeds it up a lot. Well, man, I got one question on this. Last thing we started with, you fill in the blank of transition is, what's one thing that you would recommend for any leader that's going through, whether it's, ministry, whatever it is, any leader in the urban context, they're going through transition, you would give them one piece of advice, what would it be?
if they're the one handing off?
If they're the one that's, both, do both.
Both?
Because it's you. You can do both.
All right, if you're handing off a ministry, something that you lead, I think a key thing to remember is that your influence actually increases when you hand off stuff. That's something that I'm even learning on a different level. That when you give ministry away, you actually increase your influence, you actually increase impact. And so, yeah, if you're kind of wrestling with, should I do this now? That's what could potentially happen. Influence, impact. For the person who is receiving that, I would say, like receiving a ministry or organization or somebody's handing off to you, I think my answer is kind of twofold. One, always honor your predecessor, because anything you're building, even if you're going in a different direction, is still built on what your predecessor did. And I think sometimes there's a pressure to tear down what was, to differentiate yourself, like you don't need to do that to cast vision. You just don't. Honor the persons who came before you, because you want to be honored when you pass it on. So that's one. And then the second thing is moving slow with change.
Man, we didn't talk about that.
Moving slow with change. You got like no more than two, maybe three.
Yeah, I think we had that discussion.
Yeah, that might be another time, but yeah, don't.
We gotta drop that jewel, man, on our way out the door. Like John Cotter, change management expert, says that when you are going to a new organization, he's a change management. He says don't change anything, but if you got to change something, and make that choice, like choose it. It's just hard.
Okay, here's what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna piggyback on that. So if you're gonna make one change, because there's some changes that naturally happen.
Right.
There's some changes that like you have no control, because we don't know the future. So change will happen, and people will assume it's you. because you're a different
That's
leader.
So true. Yeah, man.
So just know, all right.
That doggone Kurt.
Changes are coming. So you might as well only make one.
Make one.
Because something else is going to change.
Yeah, man. Because y'all had a lot of stuff.
You only got you only got so many you can do before people are like, I'm done with this.
Because it's going to be like 10, 20 changes that you have nothing to do with. Yeah. That's a great point. Yeah. But it is odd because everything falls on leadership. It's just like, guess I'll take this hit too. Yep, give it to me. Yeah, that was me. I had nothing to do with that. I wasn't even there. Yeah. But yeah, man, I am so grateful for us because we never had this conversation, the post conversation. I thought, man, it would be good for us to talk about it and let people see like this is our real relationship. Mm-hmm. Like we just talk and it what went bad, what went good, we talk about it and we work through it and then we figure it out. But at the end of the day, we family, we locked in. Man, and leaders need to lock in together. That would be my thing. Man, that's the end of this pod. Man, we are so thankful for you. Thank you so much, Kurt, for falling through.
My pleasure.
And we have an opportunity to really share what we have, you know what I'm saying, we locked in with family, and we've been locked in, and we always will be. But we've been able to share this with you all publicly of what it looks like to transition. And that's the good, bad, and the ugly. You know what I'm saying? What was the healthy things, what were the unhealthy things? And then maybe as we move forward, we will do better. You know what I'm saying? As the next cap. Until next time, thank you so much for joining us on the Thrive Podcast. Let's get it.